1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us count down the last 10 seconds to kick off International China Concern Gala 2021, the race against time. And now, please welcome your Master of Ceremonies, Mr. David Gotts.
Hey David, looks like you could use a lift.
All right, what can I get for you?
Can I get 2 black coffees, one with 1 sugar, please? Thank you so much. You have been a lifesaver.
Oh, David, it was my absolute pleasure. Have a great show tonight.
I know. I shouldn't have got the coffee.
Next time, you gotta listen to the blind guy.
Hello, my name is David Gotts, and I'm the founder of International China Concern and your host this evening. I'd like to welcome all our friends from across Australia to the Race Against Time Gala. We're so excited to have you with us, and we're looking forward to a fun, inspiring and meaningful time together. Now, just for the record, I am now wearing my jeans. I hope you enjoyed that funny skit. I know that I, along with Canadian Paralympian Donovan Tilsley, had a lot of fun making it. Donovan Tilsley is an amazing Paralympic swimmer that has 5 gold medals, 4 silver medals and 3 bronze medals during his career. You know, going through the drive-thru at McDonald's with him being pushed in that kid's jogging stroller was a lot of fun. But please remind me next time not to offer to make such a fool of myself. Well, more importantly, I hope you enjoy seeing the images of the children as we counted down to the beginning of this live stream. Every one of the children that you saw is a member of ICC's big family. We know each one by name. We know their circumstances, their challenges, we know their pain, and we know their victories. And we are with them every step of the way as they run their race. This evening is first and foremost about these children. It's about the 620 children that ICC already serves. But even more critically, it's about the thousands of other children with disabilities that ICC has the opportunity to serve. For those children with a disability who are still in China's welfare system, as well as for those families raising a child with a disability that are still waiting for help, well, time is running out. And that's why tonight's event is called The Race Against Time. We're in a race to help those families that have a child with a disability before the mounting pressures of stigma and prejudice and poverty breaks them apart. You're going to hear tonight how every day that passes pushes these families towards unimaginable places of pain. We're also in a race to help those children with disabilities that remain in China's welfare centres, who are still experiencing neglect and hopelessness. Time is running out for them to receive the love and the care and the support that they need, and there are very real consequences to that. You see, without that support, a child may never learn to walk, never learn to feed him or herself, never know the security and the protection that they need, never know what it means to be part of a family, never know what it means to be included or to go to school or to receive education or have medical care. In fact, for some, they may not even survive. So tonight we're asking you to join the race against time. We're asking you to be a part of a movement that can bring hope to families and help them stay together. And we're asking you to reach out across the miles into the lives of children living with the pain of abandonment, isolation and hopelessness, so that they can receive the love and the care and the support that they need. Well, we have a great evening ahead for you tonight. Let me give you a sneak peek of what you can expect during our gala.
The first years of her life were spent living in terrible poverty in a Chinese welfare center. Tonight, Sun Wu shares the story of her 25-year journey to become an accomplished pianist and music teacher. Living with a disability creates challenges no matter where in the world you are. Meet Lowell and Julie, a couple whose passion for adventure has taken them across the globe. Although Lowell is blind, he does not let that limit his dreams, and his sights are now set on representing his country in the Tokyo Paralympics. Meet Liang Liang, a young boy with Down syndrome whose race has just begun. Expected to die as a baby, Liang Liang has defied all the doctor's expectations and is growing up as a beloved part of the ICC family. Jiaxin's mother contemplated taking both her daughter's life and her own because of the pressure and isolation of raising a child with a disability. We'll hear of the hope that Jiaxin's mother found and how that hope can impact 7,000 more families.
I'm so excited about this evening. You know, over the last months, as we've been putting together this gala, I've had the opportunity to meet some incredible people and hear some amazing stories of resilience and courage. And I'm in no doubt that by the end of this evening, your hearts will not only be touched, but you're going to be really inspired by the amazing people that you're going to meet. Of course, this evening, we're also raising funds so that ICC's work can impact even more lives. Our goal this evening is to raise 25,000 Australian dollars. Now, I know that $25,000 is a lot of money to raise, but I also know that you, that is our ICC family of supporters, are generous. And so we want to thank you for standing with us. Now, we're going to get our thermometer to go live. There we are. You can see that right now we have got $705 that has already been donated before the event began. You know, what I love about our thermometer this year is that we have this Paralympic runner. You can see him with his little prosthesis there. And for every gift that comes in, it's going to move him further and further along the race until he hits that finish line. Now, I know that many of you already give generously to ICC. But we hope that this event inspires you to see that together we are in a race to do so much more for the children who are still waiting for their lives to be changed. Later on, as we come towards the end of our evening, there's going to be a special time for you to reflect on all that you've heard and seen, and for you to consider if you can make a gift tonight to help make that change for China's most vulnerable children. Let me encourage you about what your giving can do. Did you know that 50 Australian dollars can provide a social worker to support a family that will hold that family together through providing the services that that family needs? Did you know that 100 Australian dollars can provide special education for 2 children, giving them that opportunity to learn and to grow and develop and become all that they can be? Now, I know that some of you may not be able to stay through the whole event, and we hope you will, but if you can't, here is the link this evening that will enable you to be able to donate. You can see there it is on the screen. So we have www.giveus.live. Okay, that's www.giveus.live. And you can see there that there's a QR code. And if you take out your cell phone, your mobile phone, open up the camera facility and scan that code, it will take you straight through to the donation page. Now, at whatever point you make a donation this evening, your gift is going to get added to our live thermometer. It's going to move our runner towards the finish line and get us closer towards our goal. Well, this evening, I'm particularly excited to introduce my first guest to you. I first met Swanu back in 1994 when I visited the Changsha Welfare Centre. The conditions at that time were tragic, and the mortality rates for children with a disability were extremely high, up to 80%. I remember meeting this particular 5-year-old girl called Swanu. In the midst of living in the terrible suffering, I could see in her eyes the will to live. There was a strength in her, and while she was bent under the weight of suffering, she was not broken. Would you please join me in welcoming my first guest to the Race Against Time, Swanu. Swanu, 你好，很高兴你能参加我们今天晚上的募款活动。
高先生你好，
我记得我第一次来到长沙就是1993年，你那时候才有几岁？你还记得当年那个来参访的外国朋友团队吗？
那时候我5岁，虽然当时不太记得，但是在1997年的时候，我就记得你这个蓝鼻子的蓝眼睛的高富帅高先生，你太帅了，太帅了。
哎呀，哪里，我不好意思啊。这么多年来，中国已经发生了很大的变化，但是能不能跟我们聊一聊你那时候在福利院的生活是什么情况的呢？
那个时候的福利院是很简陋的，几乎什么都没有，没有老师教我们学习，吃的也很少，每天只有2个很难吃的菜，而且很多时候都吃不饱，吃的时候我们小伙伴都要靠抢的，也没有新衣服穿，一件衣服我记得要穿很久很久很久，而且每天都必须坐在马桶上，不能到处跑。对了，我还记得没有牙刷刷牙，当时我就用手指压刷牙，这样。如果我幸好小时候吃的糖也比较少，不然我恐怕就长蛀牙了。
我记得那时候的条件真的很艰苦的。事实上，这是我为什么创办 ICC 的原因，就是因为我相信，像你和李氏、王贵、王华、你朋友等等，你们应该得到更多的关爱和进步成长的机会。我记得我们绿洲中心由1997年1月正式成立，那是 ICC 和中国政府合作的第一个项目。此后的几个星期内，你们就陆续被送到绿洲中心了。你记得搬过去之后，你们的生活有什么变化吗？
变化太多太多了，比如说进门出门都有不同的衣服和鞋子，晚上睡觉还得换睡衣，以及最记得的是每天饭后都必须要刷牙的。每天也有很丰盛的菜肴，3菜1汤，上午和下午都有水果吃，中午还要午睡的。每天还有老师教我们学习、做游戏，还有好多的玩具和衣服。我们的生活就像公主般的生活一样。
我知道你一直有一个想学习钢琴的梦想，那你是不是到绿洲中心之后开始学的？又是什么帮助你真的实现了这个梦想呢？
从小在绿洲，当时其实还不知道什么是钢琴，我们那个时候只有电子琴。后来有一次偶然的机会，ICC 有一个爱心人帮我们捐赠了一台钢琴，然后当时我们机构的一个小朋友也在学习钢琴，我就在旁边偷学来着，然后呢，然后呢有个新加坡的林老师发现了，他就说：孙武，你是不是想学钢琴呀？我说是啊是啊是啊。他说那你会不会好好学，会不会坚持学？我说一定会的。就这样他就资助了我10节课，然后 ICC 资助了我2年之后就说可能还是觉得学习有点困难了，然后不过这个时候我要感谢上帝，他派来了一位天使，就派来了我的丽丽老师，他来教我钢琴，然后我就在这基础用了4年的时间考完了钢琴10节，然后现在也和他在一起教其他的小朋友弹钢琴，我觉得这是一件很感恩的事情。
哇，那非常好！现在你已经成为了一个优秀的钢琴师了，就像所有其他动手练习的孩子一样。但是我们知道，你是比一般的人付出了更多难以想象的努力，才有今天的成就的。我记得你几年之前被邀请去参加中国一个国家电视节目的钢琴表演，能不能跟我们聊一聊你是如何得到这样一个宝贵表演的机会呢？
那是在 ICC 还有福利院以及我钢琴老师的筹划和策划之下，还有其他的爱心朋友的资助之下，办了我的这场个人的独奏会，是在长沙最大的音乐厅办的，真的很感谢。 再次感谢大家的帮助。
哇，我非常好的一个经验。我想与大家分享一下你那次钢琴的表演的录像，可以吗？
OK， 没问题，可以的。
谢谢。谢谢孙武非常精彩的表演，我们很荣幸 ICC 成为你生命成长的一部分。现在我们世界上的朋友，他们都知道你的故事，也看到了你很精彩的表演。在我们时间结束之前，你有什么话想对大家说的呢？
如果没有几年前的，高先生你的帮助，就是来探访我们这个福利院，可能就没有现在的 ICC， 就是也没有现在的我。因为我觉得，就因为你们的到来，你们的爱，让我的生活真的是有了一个翻天覆地的变化。而如今在中国还有很多很多像我们这样的残疾的孩子需要大家的帮助，所以我在这里呼吁大家，真诚的呼吁大家来支持 ICC， 让更多的残疾孩子能够享受到爱、希望、机会。谢谢。
谢谢孙武，谢谢你今天晚上参加我们的活动，我们也和大家一起祝愿你继续健康快乐的生活下去。再见，
拜拜，
拜拜。
谢谢。
I feel so humbled by Sunu's story. What an amazing journey from being a young girl, abandoned, suffering a painful physical disability, without hope, to now being an accomplished musician and piano teacher. You know, it isn't very often that you get to tell a 27-year story like this. What I really love is that you get to see the long arc of ICC's work. I call it the long journey of love. You can see through it how walking alongside a child can not only truly change their life, but it can help them achieve their potential. And in this instance, it made dreams come true. But as Swanu said, there are so many other children just like her that are waiting for this kind of help and support. And that's why we're here tonight, to afford those kind of opportunities of love and hope to all those that are living without it right now. Now, many of us are not born with a disability, but there are a good number of us that will acquire a disability at some time in life. Should that happen to you, then you're going to experience the challenges that those born with a disability face throughout their lives. Tonight, we're not only hearing from the children and the families that ICC serves, but we're also hearing from some other special guests who have acquired disabilities. A little later, we'll hear from Stephen Wilson. He's an Australian gold medal winning Paralympian. But first, I'm excited to introduce my first guest to you, because they serve to remind us that having a disability shouldn't mean having to give up on your dreams. In season 4 of the television show Amazing Race Canada, we were introduced to Lowell and Julie, one of 12 couples racing across the country and the world to win $250,000. Lowell and Julie, whilst filled with energy and a love for life, also faced an extra degree of challenge in competing. You see, Lowell is blind. So imagine this, imagine racing across the world, rappelling off buildings, hanging from a Skytram or gondola over 2,000 feet above the ground, when you have virtually no vision. This couple will inspire you. Will you please join me in welcoming from Lethbridge, Alberta in Canada, Lowell and Julie Taylor. Lowell and Julie, welcome to the Race Against Time Gala. I'm really thrilled to have you join us this evening.
Hello, thank you for having us. We're thrilled to be here.
Now, in 2016, you both took up the huge challenge of taking part in The Amazing Race Season 4. And my family and I are big fans of that show. And actually, we were big fans of you too. We cheered for you as you were racing. And I wanted to begin by asking you if there was one particular highlight from your time on The Amazing Race that really just stood out to you.
Thanks for cheering us on, first of all. Our second leg in Vietnam was definitely my favorite. I had been worried going in about crossing the super busy Vietnam roads because I was guiding my blind husband and our crew, and I was worried I'd get us all killed. But our cab driver forged ahead, parted the traffic, and then wouldn't even accept payment for it after when we tried to pay him generously.
And I got to do some things that I wouldn't get to do otherwise. One of those was running this tugboat to push log jams in northern BC on the ocean. It was so awesome. In The Amazing Race, you get to do things you don't get to do anywhere else, like rappel off the Calgary Tower and bungee jump off a Skytram in Jasper. It's pretty epic.
Yeah, I loved watching you do that. I still remember when you let go of the monkey bars on the Skytram and you fell, and the look on your face was just like pure enjoyment. I loved seeing that. And I wanted to ask you, where does this adventurous spirit come from, and what led you to take part in The Amazing Race?
Shortly after getting married, we actually lived in New Zealand for a year, and we took part in every single crazy adventure that they had to offer. During that time, we received so many messages from people prompting us to apply for The Amazing Race. But at that time, the Canadian version didn't even exist. When the Canadian one did start, we watched with special interest. And it was in 2016 that we thought, oh, Lowell still has a little bit of sight left. And our kids seemed old enough to leave with my parents for 5 weeks. Looking back, they were babies and we were crazy. They were only 3 and 4. But I love hanging out with Lowell and giving him the chance to see and do as much as possible before he loses his sight completely was definitely motivation enough for me to do the race with him.
Yeah, I'm a blind guy who doesn't look blind. I have a genetic eye condition. It's degenerative. It's called retinitis pigmentosa. And I'm slowly losing my vision ever since I was a child. My grandpa had it as well, and he went blind at the age of 40, and I'm almost 40 now. So there's this degeneration of my vision, and it means that I'm slowly losing things, and it's a perpetual grief, a perpetual loss. Once able to do something, now I'm unable to do it.
Yeah, wow. That's really, really challenging. But, you know, one of the things I think that was so apparent on The Amazing Race is this hasn't stopped you from wanting to A, live a life full of adventure, and B, realize dreams. And that's pretty incredible. Julie, what's it like for you being married to someone who thrives on taking up such incredible challenges? Are you someone who loves challenges too?
Sometimes watching him terrifies me, like when he and his tandem cycling pilot reach 103 kilometers per hour on a bike, or when he is sauntering across monkey bars hanging from a sky tram 2,000 meters above ground. But it's hard to worry too much when when living out his adventures brings him so much joy and such a huge grin to his face. I like to challenge myself in slightly lower key ways, such as putting together an IKEA dresser.
Yeah, and anybody who has ever put together an IKEA dresser knows how challenging that can be. So anyway, Lowell, I want to ask you a question about this long-held dream that you've had to take part in the Paralympics. I know that you've been hoping to go to Japan this year. Tell me a little bit about where that dream is up to and what motivates you to kind of reach for those heights.
Yeah, I need a big goal to work towards. And the Paralympics is the top of that in the sporting realm for us who have a disability. So I'm aiming to be a paracyclist to represent Canada at the Paralympics. However, COVID has really thrown a wrench into some of the plans. So even now, it's up in the air whether I'm able to attend or not. So I continue to have to focus on the process, focus on training and being the best version of myself, being ready to perform. and realizing I'm doing this for fun, for passion, for inspiration, and to be the best, healthiest version of myself.
That's
And
fantastic.
as we move towards this, the next goal will be to represent Canada at the Road World Championships, try to qualify for Tokyo still, and then reset my sights if I don't make it, and reset it to Paris 2024 for the next Paralympic Games.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure no matter whether it's taking part in the amazing race or training for the Paralympics, there must be a whole kind of ecosystem of support that makes this possible. Can you share with us a little bit about the different supports that make this possible for you?
First and foremost, I would say we are each other's biggest supporters. And I am certainly Lowell's #1 fan. But we also have tons of amazing and supportive family and friends. And at the very top of that list is my parents. They live a couple blocks away from us. They are second parents to our kids. We are so grateful for them and would not be doing life without them. Our larger community as well, even some people we haven't met personally, have been hugely supportive. And we are so grateful.
Yeah, that's great. Having each other and family and a community of support really does make all the difference. And as you know, unfortunately for the families that we work with in China, those families that have children with disabilities and the children themselves, they don't have those supports. They don't have that kind of community system, family systems around them to support and encourage them. And when you hear about children living in these immensely difficult situations of stigma and prejudice and poverty, what goes through your mind? What goes on in your hearts?
The first word that comes to mind is unfair. We feel so lucky that we were born into loving, functional family units in a country like Canada. We have so much privilege and so much to be grateful for. Children do not choose to enter life in these situations, so it doesn't seem fair and it hurts our hearts.
And realizing that privilege, it also makes us feel this immense amount of responsibility that we can be part of supporting others and supporting those who are struggling through all of their different challenges.
Well, and you're definitely doing that tonight through taking part in this Race Against Time Gala. Lowell, Julie, you have been such an inspiration to my family. And so I really want to thank you for that, because you're showing us something. You're showing us an example of what it means to live life to the fullest, even when you're facing great challenges. And as we come to the end of our time, I'd love to give you an opportunity to speak a few words directly to those people that are watching tonight.
We want to thank everyone for coming to the gala this evening. This work is changing the lives of really vulnerable children that need our help.
Thank you for being here, and please give generously so that ICC can continue to have this massive impact on so many families and so many children who are struggling with disability.
Lowell and Julie, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedules to be with us. And thanks for encouraging us all to do our best for China's most vulnerable children.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Aren't Lowell and Julie amazing? You know, you think about it, to compete in that kind of intense competition when you have such visual impairment is pretty incredible. It takes courage, it takes passion, and we really see that in that couple. But I'd like to pick up on something that Julie said just now. She said that she felt so blessed that she'd been born into a loving family here in Canada, in a first world country. She was recognizing that where you were born can often determine what your life is going to be like. She also said too that children do not choose to enter life in these situations. She's right, isn't she? The families that have a child with a disability and the children who are abandoned because they have a disability, they didn't choose to enter into those situations. Lowell, by virtue of being in a first world nation, he receives the support and opportunity that those with disabilities can have. He's able to pursue his dreams and realise his full potential. As he said, he can be the best version of himself. The children and families that ICC is reaching, by virtue of being in China, find themselves barely hanging on to hope. They are losing the race against time. And yet we, that is you and I, we can do something about that tonight. We can share from the little that we have or the abundance that we have. And in doing so, we can change that. We can give them the opportunity to win their race, to run it with strength and with hope. Well, we're going to do another check-in now and see how we're doing as we move towards reaching our goal. Okay, we are at $1,325. That is fantastic. We've jumped from 700 to 1,325. Thank you so much to those of you that have given already this evening. Your gift will soon be bringing transformational change to the children. For those of you that haven't given yet, let me remind you there will be that time for you to be able to give towards the end of the evening after you've considered all that you've heard. I'll remind you of that giving link. Once again, it's www.giveus.live. That's www.giveus.live. You can type that into your browser or into your phone, or you can scan the QR code and it will take you straight through to that donation page. Now, did you know that a gift of Australian dollars 200 can provide medical care for 5 children? That means that can provide medications for them. In some instances, surgeries, even saving the lives of those children. So every dollar you give does help to reach more struggling families that are trying to raise a child with a disability, and it provides life-saving care for children that have already experienced abandonment. Now, speaking of abandonment, for a child that has experienced abandonment, life in a welfare centre in China is cruel and lonely. There's often little understanding of the specialised care that a child with a disability requires. There's little motivation to keep these babies and children healthy. And as soon as a child with a disability is born in China, it's like the clock starts ticking for them. The kinds of support that we in a country like Australia would expect a child with a disability to receive, well, that's just not available in China, and that has tragic results. And this is why ICC continues to reach out to children in China's welfare centres, reaching children that so desperately need life-saving help. If ICC's medical staff, therapists, social workers, vocational trainers and special educators, well, if they are able to reach these children in their earliest days, then that race against time suddenly becomes a journey towards becoming loved and filled with hope. In other words, you become the person that God wants you to be. This evening, I'd like to share with you the story of one little boy who, without the love and support that he's getting in one of ICC's care centres, well, he probably wouldn't be alive today. Here is Kyla Alexander, ICC's China Operations Director, with Liang Liang's story.
Hi everyone, my name's Kyla Alexander. I'm ICC's China Operations Director, and it's great to be here tonight with you at the Race Against Time Gala. And we in ICC, we really are in a race against time to help children in China with disabilities. I've been working in China with ICC for 20 years now, and I see firsthand every day the difference and the transformation that comes into families' lives, families that have children with disabilities, when we come around them and support them, and the transformation that comes around children when we place them in families in our care centres. And I want to thank you, all of you, for partnering with us and being a part of that transformation. And today, I want to tell you a little story about a little guy that I know. I've known him since he was born. And his name is Yan Liang, and he was born in 2013. And he was born with Down syndrome. And around about the age of 6 days old, his parents felt that they couldn't take care of him anymore. And he wound up in the welfare centre. He was diagnosed at that point with a really severe congenital cardiac abnormality. And we were told at the time, he was in welfare centre care at the time when we first met him, and we were told that he wouldn't live. His heart defect was so severe that he just wouldn't survive. So we began to support the welfare centre in providing him care. We didn't have any space in our care centre at that time, but we began to support them. And this little guy continued to survive the next couple of months, and it was decided that he would move into our ICC care centre, and we would give him care for as long as he lived and as long as he needed. Little Liang Liang survived, and he continued to live despite the diagnosis he was given, and eventually doctors said that they were willing to operate on him. And he went to Beijing and had surgery when he was a couple of years old, and then came back and thrived again within our care centre. Liang Liang needs pretty specialised therapy. He needs very specialised education services. He is a child with pretty significant needs, but he is an absolute blessing to his community. He is part of our woodpecker family, and there he's the little guy that loves all the cuddles. He loves climbing. He's really starting to develop with his walking skills and his motor skills, although he's not walking independently yet. I think he will be very soon. Just watching him run his race and meet his goals and meet his potential through the love that he's been given through ICC is such a great blessing. And you make that possible. We've heard some Olympians tonight, and they've told us our story and how they need a community to help them to run their race. Well, Liang Liang's running his race because of the community that's around him, supporting him, and thank you for that. And I ask you to give so that thousands of more children like Liang Liang can run their race and meet the potential that God has for them. So good night, and God bless, and thank you for supporting ICC with the work that we do.
You know, for me, Liang Liang's story is such a beautiful example of a little boy who would have died in a welfare centre. But because he came to ICC and became part of the woodpecker family, he didn't just survive, he's now thriving. And that's what we want. It's for Liang Liang and children like him that we are here tonight. Now, one of the people that I love working with here in ICC is ICC Australia's National Director, Lyndall Clancy. Lyndall has served in ICC for 26 years, 26 years in various capacities. She's been such a blessing to the work of ICC. Lyndall's going to join us tonight, so will you please join me in welcoming Lyndall to the Race Against Time. Lyndall, welcome to the Race Against Time. It's great to have you with us this evening.
Oh, it's great to be here, Dave.
Brilliant. Lyndall, I have known you for a very long time already. We've served together in ICC over many, many years. And I know you've fulfilled many different roles within ICC. Tell us a little bit about your journey with ICC.
Yeah, Dave, actually, it was 26 years ago this year that I stood for the first time in the Changsha Welfare Centre, I think with you, actually. And look, my heart was just broken by what I saw. And from that time, I've really had a desire to rewrite the story of those children and play a small part in doing that. And it's just been a privilege and a joy ever since.
That's fantastic. Well, I know, obviously you served as an occupational therapist in our projects in China. I know you've been on the international board, you've been on the Australian board, and now you're the Australian National Director, and we're so thankful to have you. Now, obviously, we've got people watching from all across Australia this evening, which is fantastic. We so appreciate the people who are with us. Can you tell me a little bit about your hope for this evening?
Yeah, Dave, I just really hope that people can see how their support is transforming lives. And even though we're so far away from China, that we play a really important part in allowing all that we see tonight and all that we've seen so far to happen. So I just really want our Australian supporters to be encouraged.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think you and I have both had like a front row seat to seeing how children's lives can be transformed through people's generosity. We've seen it in the field. We've watched children's lives be transformed, lives like Swanu. Tell me, Lyndall, what's been your highlight of the gala? Have you enjoyed it up to now?
Oh, Dave, it's been fantastic. Also inspiring. I think for me, I was especially moved by Swunwoo's story. Swunwoo was one of the very first children that I met back in 1995. And just to see her hopes and dreams come true is just really, truly inspiring. And then just upcoming, we're going to hear about Stephen's story, an Australian Paralympian, and just chatting to him before the gala, just seeing how the love of his family and his community really allowed him to fulfill his dreams of Olympic success. So, that's really what I want and hope for all of our children.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Well, Lyndall, we are thrilled to have you in this National Office Director's role, and that means that you get to connect with many of the people across Australia who do support the work that we do. I want to give you just a moment to speak a few words to them this evening.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I just want to say thank you, really, from the bottom of my heart. We have so many loyal donors in Australia, people who have been on teams, who sponsor children, who give faithfully. And I'm just so encouraged by that, and it's a privilege to be able to be that bridge between the work in China and Australian donors. And you've been running alongside these kids as they run their race, and that's just, I really hope that tonight you're really encouraged. And for any of you who are new to ICC, just welcome. We'd really love to get to know you. We'd love to reach out, and please call us or email us, and we just really want to welcome you to the family.
That's fantastic. Well, Lyndall, thanks so much for being with us tonight, and we pray big blessings upon you and your team as you continue to represent what we do with the lives of children in China to people across Australia. So enjoy the rest of the gala.
Thanks, Dave. Bye, everyone.
Now, last year I was really excited at our Black Tie Fuzzy Slippers Ball to premiere a song that had been written for that gala by one of ICC's very own singer-songwriter, physiotherapist extraordinaire from the UK, Alison Kennedy. I loved that song, and this year Alison has blessed us again with a new song called The Race. So sit back and enjoy The Race, written and performed by Alison.
There's a rhythm in my soul, the race I want to run. Can you take my hand? Right now I need someone. Through the rain and through the rays and through the bed-bound days, through the noise and the haze, I hear your voice say, just one step at a time. There's a rhythm in my soul, the race I want to run. Can you take my hand? Right now I need someone. Looking high, feeling deep, need to know that you're with me. Are you with me? It's feeling wild, feeling weak, I don't know. Are you with me? Oh, are you with me? Through the rain, through the rays, through the bed-bound days, through the noise and the haze, I hear your voice say, just one step at a time. There's a rhythm in my soul, there's a race I need to run. Can you take my hand? Everybody needs someone. Through the rain, through the rays, and through the bed-bound days, through the noise and the haze, I hear your voice say, just one step at a time. There's a rhythm in my soul, the race I need to run.
I think the words of that song speak what children with disabilities and their families would say to us if they could speak directly to you and I. They'd say, there's a race I want to run, there's a life I want to live, there's a dream that I have, and we, that is you and I, we can help them do that. Well, as Lyndall referenced when we were chatting just now, our next guest is an Australian Paralympian that won 2 gold medals at the Sydney 2000 Paralympics. Will you please join me in welcoming Paralympic gold medalist Stephen Wilson. Stephen, welcome to the Race Against Time Gala. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us this evening.
Thanks very much for having me, David.
Great. Stephen, people may know you as one of Australia's premier Paralympians. However, they may not know much of your story. And so I wanted to begin by asking you about how you acquired your disability. Would you mind sharing a little with us about that?
Sure. I was 12 years of age and I was in my first year of high school, and I was a keen sports person ready to run in the GPS All Schools in Sydney, and I was late getting home, and so I was in a hurry and made one of those split-second decisions to cross a 4-laned highway, and without looking I was hit by a truck, a sand truck fully loaded. It ran over my foot. Thankfully that was all, but it made a mess of it, and I found myself in hospital. And that night, I woke up in a hospital room missing my lower foot.
Wow. That is a really intense experience as a 12-year-old to go through. Now, in China, obviously, there are children that are born with disabilities, and then people like you who acquire disabilities as they move through their childhood. All of those children, once they have a disability, they experience really intense stigma and prejudice and exclusion. Now, when you acquired your disability, what was your experience like in that Australian context?
Yeah, look, I had a lot of support, a lot of love and encouragement. I remember getting back to school for the first day, and all my friends were lining up wanting to be the one to buy me lunch at the tuck shop. And so I think everybody really appreciated what I was going through and felt for me, and really wanted to make it known that they'd got me. And I've never really experienced any negative kind of discouragement because of my disability.
Yeah, that's amazing, because that would be the one thing that children in China do get a lot of. They get a lot of discouragement. You know, when they head out onto the streets, there's so many cruel comments that people will make. And a lot of it is born out of just never having seen people with disabilities before. And these children and families, you know, even the most basic kinds of supports that we would take for granted in places like Australia or Canada, they're just not available. Now, you didn't just have people around you that were loving you, but you still continue to carry a passion for sport. Can you tell me, share with me a little bit about that journey towards becoming a Paralympian?
I'd heard of Paralympic sport, but I thought that's for disabled people. And I really just wanted to compete. I wanted to show everybody that I wasn't disabled. And I guess I had a disability that enabled me with some effort to do okay. It wasn't until I was about 26 years of age, 1996, Atlanta Games were on, and I saw disabled runners for the first time, and thought I want to have a crack at that. And so I went to the prosthetist and said, make me a leg. And he tested me out and said, yep, righto, we'll make you a leg. And next thing, I think about 6 months later, and I was training full time then, I found myself on my first Australian trip to Germany, and was running 100 metres in 11.7 seconds.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. Now, obviously, you really focused yourself in and kept training, and you had the amazing opportunity to take part in the Paralympics in your home country, in Sydney, in front of a home crowd. That has got to be mind-blowing. Tell me one or two of the highlights of being at that Sydney 2000 Olympics for you.
I remember the opening ceremony, and obviously when the home team comes out and the stadium's packed with sports-loving Aussies, we just got the biggest reception ever, and the sound was incredible. It was like a physical sound which hit you. I'm not sure that I'll ever experience that again, so that was amazing. There was that kind of encouragement and support that all these people came to see disabled people compete.
And in lane 7, represented by Stephen Wilson, the team from Australia.
I remember looking up in the stands, and I was trying to find where my friends were and family were, and I saw these 5 guys lined up without shirts on with an STEVE. And so I still remember that.
That's absolutely fantastic. And it says such a lot about the person you are, that you're talking about your family and friends and the roar of the crowd. But of course, you actually won 2 gold medals at that Olympics as well. That must have been a pretty incredible experience.
It was a real privilege to represent the country, but also to win gold medals. I was awarded an Order of Australia medal as well. And so it was just really humbling, because whilst I thought of myself as a good athlete, I didn't really think I'd ever have the opportunity to be one of those Paralympic athletes. Yeah.
Wilson's going to come over and qualify for the final.
Brilliant. That's absolutely amazing. Well, as you know, people have all different kinds of perspectives on disability. And of course, even in the church, people have all different kinds of perspectives on disability. But I know one of the things as a follower of Christ, as a Christian, is that you have the view of how you saw God in the midst of your experience. Share a little of that with me, about how you saw God's presence on your journey.
Yeah, so I was raised in a Christian family, and I was a Christian when I lost my leg. I still had a lot to learn, but I believed that God was good, and I knew that God was involved and interested in everything that was happening. And so I was reminded when I lost my leg that it wasn't an accident, but it was part of God's plan for my life. And I think that really gave me hope for the future. I also knew that God doesn't pick or use the strongest and most able. Sometimes he uses the most weak to show his glory. And so, God is the God of the disabled.
Yeah, exactly. And, earlier this evening, we shared the story of Swanu, one of the girls who has actually grown up with ICC over the last 28 years, and how she went from being a young girl abandoned, literally with no hope, who didn't have any kind of a future, to now being a pianist that has performed in front of huge crowds of people. And, she would say, thank you, God, for that opportunity to walk that journey. So, God can do it. He can do it in Australia. He can do it also in China too. Well, Stephen, in closing, I'd love to give you the opportunity to share a few words with those who are watching tonight.
So look, thanks for taking the time to come and be part of this gala. Really want to encourage you to get behind what ICC is doing in China, in caring for and supporting these disabled young people that have grown up in very different circumstances to all the opportunity and love and encouragement that I have. And I'd love to hear more stories like David just shared about that girl pianist, because I think there's lots of people, I guess, bound by the stigma and lacking the opportunity to be everything that God made them to be.
That's great. Well, Stephen, thanks so much for being with us tonight. It's inspiring to get to speak with you. And I believe that through this evening, through people's generosity, there are going to be even more children that will get to realize their dreams. So thanks again and good night.
Thank you.
I don't know if you noticed, but Stephen spoke about how important family, friends, community, and faith have been to him. The children and the families that ICC serves need that too. They need a community that will come around them. And that's what we get to be tonight. Stephen had the opportunity to achieve his potential. Wouldn't it be amazing for our generosity this evening to help children in China reach for their dreams? Stephen, thank you for sharing your story with us and inspiring us. Just amazing. Okay, I'm excited. Let's do another check-in and see where we are up to. Okay, we are at $2,480, so we are beginning to make our way up. You can see our little man moving there towards the finish line. I want to say thank you to every single person that has given already for your incredible generosity this evening. We are moving closer, slowly and surely, towards that goal of helping even more children. A quick reminder of the giving link tonight. Here it is www.giveus.live. That's www.giveus.live. Or you can scan that QR code and it will take you straight through to the donation page. Again, let me encourage you, $100 can provide special education to 2 children. That means 2 children that normally wouldn't have the opportunity to learn or go to school will be able to go to school, will be able to learn just like children in Australia and begin that journey towards fulfilling their dreams and their potential. So please do give generously this evening. Now, many of you may not know that my second son, Kieran, was born with a disability. My wife and I didn't find out about Kieran's challenges until he was 3 months old. That was when he began to have seizures. As you can imagine, learning that Kieran had a neurological condition was a big shock, and it was very overwhelming for my wife and I. We still remember being in the hospital in crisis mode, trying to cope with watching this little 3-month-old baby have seizures. You know, you don't really think about how you visualize the future of your new child until that future is threatened. But when it is, you realize how many dreams you carry for your child, and you begin to wonder whether any of those dreams will ever come true. My wife and I, well, we came to know both the joys and the pain of parenting a child whose developmental delays were significant. We had to make frequent, countless visits to the hospital in order to get the medical attention that we needed. Kieran needed physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. And we loved that boy more than I can say. But the reality was, it was hard. Even with all the support a nation like ours could offer, it was difficult, and it is hard raising a child with special needs. Why am I telling you all this? Well, I'm telling you this because my next guest is David Bondy. He's the director of ICC's Family Partners Programme, or FPP. Every day, David and his team encounter families that face the same beginning to their parenting story as my wife and I did. However, living in China means that, unlike my family, they receive little to no support. Would you please join me in welcoming David Bondy? David, welcome to the Race Against Time Gala. It's a real pleasure to have you with us this evening.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, David.
Now, one of the things we're talking about this evening is how we're in a race against time to support families that have a child with a disability before they break apart under the pressure of caring for their child. Rather than talking about the situation kind of hypothetically, I'd love it if you tell us specifically about one of the families that FPP has been working with.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So Jiaxin is a 6-year-old girl. She's part of a loving family in Changsha. When you meet her, she's just the cutest little thing. But if you look into this little girl's story and the story of her family, you'll find immensely challenging circumstances. So when Jiaxin was born, her mother was really shocked when the doctor told her that Jiaxin not only had physical disability, but speech delay as well. Jiaxin's mother and father were committed to caring for her, but it was pretty tough. I mean, they began to encounter many health issues and challenges related to Jiaxin's disability, which had a big impact on their finances.
Before Jiaxin was 1 year old, she was always in the hospital. When she turned 1, she began to get a bit better. However, she would often get a persistent cough from drinking her milk because she couldn't swallow properly. This caused the pneumonia. Every month, we had to go to the community clinic for her to get an injection. It was much cheaper to do this than to stay in the hospital.
It must have been so stressful for Jiaxin's parents to deal kind of with the ups and downs of Jiaxin's health.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, when Jiaxin turned 3 years old, her parents decided that she needed to begin physical therapy.
And I know that therapy services in China are expensive and difficult to access. Oftentimes, they're just unaffordable for the majority of people.
That's absolutely true. So here's what Jiaxin's mother had to say about that herself.
The doctor told us that Jiaxin's development was delayed. He recommended physical therapy. However, there was just no way we could afford it.
It must be so heartbreaking to know that your child really needs help now, but you have to delay it due to your financial situation.
That's right. I mean, Jiaxin's parents, they were able to scrounge some money, and Jiaxin's mother was really engaged. She worked really hard with her to help Jiaxin learn to crawl. It was slow progress, but Jiaxin did begin to improve.
We did 2 months of physical therapy as the doctor told us that if Jiaxin could learn to crawl, then maybe she could learn to walk. When she was 1 year and 3 months old, Jiaxin herself was eager to walk. When she managed to get her body in a stable position, she was able to move forward. However, she still wasn't able to stand independently.
So Jiaxin had to stop her therapy when the money ran out, which must have been so difficult. But because now she was able to walk, her parents thought that the challenges were over, but then they began to discover that there were other issues.
Yeah, in fact, they really thought that at this point she no longer had a disability. I mean, oftentimes for families, they're not really told the long-term nature of their child's disability. And so just like Jiaxin's parents, there's a false sense of hope that things will now be normal. However, later they realized that Jiaxin still had some challenges to face.
We realized that Jiaxin was not able to speak. Children her age are often able to say mama or papa. Jiaxin was only able to say ma or ba, the single sounds. When she was 1.5 years old, we took her for a checkup. The doctor told us, "Your child's speech is not developing." He suggested that we do speech therapy. But we told him about our financial situation. He mentioned that there are some organizations that can help. So we called the Disabled People's Federation.
So Jiaxin's mother once again faced not only the challenge of having insufficient finances, but also of needing to try and find somewhere that could help her with providing Jiaxin speech therapy.
And that must be so emotionally and mentally exhausting to be aware that your child needs intervention in order to continue to develop. You don't have the finances, and actually you don't even know where to look for that help.
Yeah. What made matters worse was that when she contacted the China's Disabled People's Federation, which is one of the organizations the doctor was referring her to, she was told their funding had run out. If she wanted to get any kind of support, she'd have to move to another city that still had funding available. So the situation honestly began to get really desperate for her mother, and she even began to contemplate the unthinkable. She began to consider whether it might be better for her to take Jiaxin's life and that of her own. I mean, she was desperate, out of options, and she didn't know what else to do. It was around this time that Jiaxin's mother learned about ICC's Family Partners Program. Our cross care team began not only to work with Jiaxin, providing her with therapy and education, but to also support the whole family as well. And this made a radical difference to each member of that family.
Yeah, it must have been a huge relief for Jiaxin's mother to finally have access to expert help that wasn't going to leave her family destitute. Now, what kind of changes did her mother begin to see in Jiaxin?
Well, two big ones she's seen. First of all, Jiaxin's speaking. She's using simple words and phrases, which she was not doing before. The second change is she's becoming social. She was so quiet and reserved, but she's actually coming out of her shell now. She's speaking to people, and people are responding. So what's amazing is that now Jiaxin's mother not only has access to special education, physical therapy for Jiaxin, and support for her and her family, she also has something much more precious. She has hope. In fact, for her, having the support of ICC's Family Partners Program has, as she said, brought light into her life.
Wow, that's an amazing story, and it really does highlight the struggles that families that have children with disabilities face. And yet, of course, Jiaxin and her family are one of thousands of families and one of thousands of stories of desperation. Now, David, I mentioned a little earlier tonight that ICC has been given a unique opportunity to expand our services to even more families. Can you tell us briefly a little bit about those opportunities?
Yeah, as best we can tell, there are around 7,000 additional families just in the Changsha area that need the kinds of services that we provide. In addition, there's outlying areas such as Hengyang, where we have plans to open a project as soon as possible. So the need is great. The doors are open, and we're prayerfully going to be taking advantage of the opportunities.
I find this so exciting. As ICC's founder, I can see the potential that there is. But of course, this story really does focus in on the pressures and the stress that families are living under, and actually how that can all change with something so simple when someone comes alongside and provides those care and services that a family needs.
Yeah, it really is amazing. I mean, for the Chinese government to ask ICC to take this on, it really does demonstrate the unique relationship that ICC has with the government, local and otherwise.
I find this a really moving story, and of course, the ending isn't written yet. And it may be a long journey for Jiaxin, but I'm excited that we can continue to walk with her and her mother and to see her reach hopefully her fullest potential and achieve some of the dreams that she carries inside of her. Well, David, before we wrap up tonight, do you have a few words that you'd like to say to those that are watching?
Well, I would just like to say that the change that's been made in this family is a big one. And the mother has, in her own words, gone from a victim to an advocate. She is now reaching out to other parents, other families, encouraging them to keep going, keep on keeping on. And what you have the opportunity to do tonight is you also can be an advocate. You can be an advocate for this work. You can be an advocate for these children, for these families. You can make a big, big difference. So I would encourage you to dig deep tonight and invest in their future, because it's going to be bright.
David, thank you so much. The work that you're doing with these families is so, so important. And we really hope that through this Race Against Time Gala, we can actually help that many more families. So thanks again and good night.
My pleasure. Thanks.
As David shared with us this evening, there are thousands of families that have a child with a disability just in the city of Changsha alone. And many, if not most, are struggling like Jiaxin's mother. This is an absolute tragic reality. I don't know about you, but I found it so hard to hear just now about how Jiaxin's mother's desperation led her to contemplate taking Jiaxin's life and her own life. However, because of ICC's Family Partners Program, Jiaxin and her mother have now received support and hope. And you know what they're doing? They're sharing that hope with other struggling families. It's amazing. As a foreign organisation, being asked by the local government to help an additional 7,000 families is almost unimaginable in a strictly controlled place like China. Even though China has changed and the government is allocating more funding to these issues, the reality is that the need outstrips the available resources. And ICC is one of only 12 organisations in the whole of that country that are permitted to work with children and youth with disabilities. We're one of the very few that have both the permission of the government and the expertise to truly make a difference to these families. This is another reason why we come together tonight to share with you about this incredible opportunity and to ask for your help as we seek to reach those 7,000 families with the life-saving support that they need. Now, in this race against time, you've heard from Lowell and Julie, who've literally raced across Canada, and how Lowell is racing to fulfill his dream to become a Paralympic cyclist. You've also heard Stephen Wilson's story, and you've seen how his dream was realised through winning gold at the Sydney Paralympics in 2000. I know I feel inspired when I hear these people share their great and moving stories. But we've also heard tonight from 3 beautiful, unique individuals who probably will never be Paralympians, but they definitely have dreams. We've heard from Swanu, who began life abandoned and suffering and without hope, and her dream to become a pianist and a music teacher, and how that's come true with ICC's help. And we've heard of Jiaxin and Liang Liang, 2 young children whose race could have been tragically cut short. And yet now they have the opportunity to realise their potential and discover their dreams. So here's what I see tonight. I see that for each one of us, that is you and I, and all the children in China, we all have dreams that are different. We're all unique, and we all have unique dreams. The dreams of Lowell are not going to be Stephen's dreams. Swanu's dreams are not going to be Liang Liang's dreams or Jiaxin's dreams. So what does those dreams, that achievement, look like for one of ICC's children? It's a really good question. What is their gold medal? Well, I'd like to share with you a video that shows literally the bumpy journey that some of ICC's children face as they seek to achieve something that comes so naturally to most of us, that is learning to walk. Take a look.
There's a rhythm in my soul, a race I want to run. Can you take my hand? Right now I need someone. Looking high, feeling deep, I need to know that you're with me. Are you with me? It's feeling wild, feeling weak, I don't know. Are you with me? Are you with me? Through the rain, through the rays, through the bed-bound days, through the noise and the haze, I hear your voice say, just one step at a time. There's a rhythm in my soul, a race I need to run.
It's beautiful to see these 2 children learning to walk. Such a simple thing, and yet for them, it's something that they have to work at, and when they achieve it, it is pure gold, absolute gold. All right, we're going to do another check-in. I'm excited to see how we're doing as we continue to move towards tonight's goal. We are at $9,330. That means there's been a good number of you that have been incredibly generous over the last little while of the gala. So a big thank you to all of you that have given since we began this evening. Your generosity is amazing, and it will achieve, more importantly, so much in a child's life. Well, at this point, I'd like to remind you again what this race against time is all about. It's a race to keep families together and to prevent the pain of abandonment. It's to help fulfill an opportunity that we've been given to reach out to 7,000 new families that are desperately in need of help. It's a race to reach children currently in government welfare centres who are living a pretty hopeless existence. It's giving all of those children the opportunity to fulfill their potential and reach for their dreams. You know, it's about being able to tell those stories, thousands more stories hopefully, of children like Swanu who go on that long journey of becoming the person that God wants them to be. It's helping Liang Liang to run his race and Jiaxin and her mother to run their race, so that they can not only receive hope but pass it on to others. That is the race against time. That's why we race, to see those things happen, to see those children's lives and those families' lives impacted. And that is where you come in. You see, in ICC, we trust that God will provide all that we need. This is a prayer that I pray every day, believing that God can do it. But I know that He often does it through caring and compassionate people like you. And so tonight, I want to invite you again to give generously. Let's reflect a little bit on what we've seen and heard. We've heard about the challenges that children with a disability face in China. We've heard about the struggle and the stress that families are under as they seek to raise a child that has a disability. And I think we've seen together tonight the potential that exists if we come together around these children and families to help them on that journey. We've seen that dreams can be realised when we stand with these families and children. So again, let me remind you a little bit about what your giving can achieve. $50 can ensure that a family has a social worker that will walk with them on that long journey, providing the support and the counselling and the services that they need. $100 will enable 2 children to learn and to receive education. And those children need that, otherwise they may never receive education. 200 Australian dollars, well, that can literally save lives because it can provide the medical care for 5 children, medications, surgeries, all those things that help sustain and enhance life. So I'm going to give you our giving link once again. Here it is. It's www.giveoz.live. That's www.giveoz.live. And there's that QR code that you can scan. And this now is the time and the opportunity for you to reflect on all that you've seen and heard, to reflect on Swanu's story, to reflect on Jiaxin's story, Liang's story, and to think about how we can help these children fulfill their dreams and reach that potential, and how we can help 7,000 more families realise that dream of staying healthy and strong together. So as you think and reflect on that, I want to invite you once again to enjoy Alison's song, The Race.
There's a rhythm in my soul, the race I want to run. Can you take my hand? Right now I need someone. Through the rain and through the rays and through the bed-bound days, through the noise and the haze, I hear your voice say, just one step at a time. There's a rhythm in my soul, the race I want to run. Can you take my hand? Right now I need someone. Looking high, feeling deep, need to know that you're with me. Are you with me? It's feeling wild, feeling weak, I don't know. Are you with me? Are you with me? Through the rain, through the rays, through the bed-bound days, through the noise and the haze, I hear your voice say, just one step at a time. There's a rhythm in my soul, there's a race I need to run. Can you take my hand? Everybody needs someone. Through the rain, through the rays, and through the bed-bound days, through the noise and the haze, I hear your voice say, just one step at a time. There's a rhythm in my soul, the race I need to run.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to Alison's song once again, The Race. It really speaks so beautifully about the race that these children are in, and the opportunity that we have to go along with them. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you that during that time made generous donations to the work that we do. We know that some of you have literally supported our work for decades. I think of people like Graham and Elizabeth Young, who have been with ICC since the very beginning and who've walked with us on that journey. So thankful for people like them and so many others that have walked with us for so long. And of course, I want to thank those of you that are new to ICC. This may be your first gala or your first ICC virtual event. Welcome, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to the stories and being inspired. Well, I also want to encourage you too that if you want to know more about ICC's work, then please contact Lyndall. Well, as we close, I want to thank you for your amazing generosity this evening. It's really appreciated. We are now at $13,455. That is an incredible amount of money. And I know we haven't hit our target, but I want to let you know that we recently had our end of year appeal for the end of the fiscal year, and so many of you gave so generously. That was an amazing response. And there will continue to be opportunity as we seek to move towards hitting that target of 25,000. The giving pages will be open for the next few weeks. And so, please encourage your friends to check out the recording of this gala on YouTube and to be generous and support the work that ICC does. Well, we so appreciate the support of all of our friends across Australia, but a particular thanks, of course, to those of you that have been with us this evening. May each and every one of you know blessings in your own life as you support children with disabilities. Thank you for joining the Race Against Time Gala and for all that you do for China's most vulnerable children. Thank you and good night.
There's a rhythm in my soul, a race I want to run. Can you take my hand? Right now I need someone. Through the rain and through the rays and through the bed-bound days, through the noise and the haze, I hear your voice say, just one step at a time. There's a rhythm in my soul, a race I want to run. Can you take my hand? Right now I need someone. Looking high, feeling deep, need to know that you're with me. Are you with me? It's feeling wild, feeling weak, I don't know. Are you with me? Oh, are you with me? Through the rain, through the rays, through the bed-bound days, through the noise and the haze, I hear your voice say, just one step at a time. There's a rhythm in my soul, there's a race I need to run. Can you take my hand? Everybody needs someone. Through the rain, through the rays, and through the bed-bound days, through the noise and the haze, I hear your voice say, just one step at a time. There's a rhythm in my soul, the race I need to run.